Welcome to Some Stutter.
Newfoundland and Labrador's first podcast.
It's about communicating differently.
I'm Paul.
I'm Laura.
I'm Greg. I'm a person who stutters. How's that?
Yeah, that's good.
During our conversation this morning, I'll be working on a speech target that helps me to manage my severe stuttering called full breath. And it helps me to breathe because many people who stutter do not breathe appropriately. So we tend to rush everything. So I'll be working on my full breath this morning.
Could you give us an example, Greg, of like a short example of what that exercise might look like?
For example, okay, before I speak, I have to take a breathe inwards. And when I'm exhaling, then start to speak. Because we tend to sort of push it all out, breathe from the diaphragm as opposed to the stomach. So we have to really concentrate on our breathing. Because where a lot of stutterers fuck up, excuse the language, is that we want to get everything out so we won't block, My name is Greg O'Grady, which sets us up. So it relaxes us, just try it. My name is Greg O'Grady. Don't you feel tranquil?
Definitely.
Totally. I think you're like sneaking in a couple other speech targets
That's true. That's true. Like the stretched syllable as well. Yeah.
So in this session, we're talking about an interview, Greg, that you did with a man named Ben.
Ben is a 28-year-old person who stutters, and Ben lives in Columbus, Ohio. And I was very impressed with Ben. He is a very outgoing, funny, and individual. Ben works with the Chimley business. He also is very active in sports. He plays volleyball, and he also coaches a Special Olympic group as well. Ben has been struggling with his stuttering for a number of years, and it's amazing how he has come like a 360 turnaround. He used to hide his stuttering. He's tried speech therapy, and it wasn't successful for him.
No, and he didn't seem to like the approach either.
You're right. He sort of he didn't have it wasn't a very pleasurable experience, which is unfortunate. However, but he's reached a point now that he is an open person who stutters, and he attended his first National Stuttering Association conference last year, and Ben was, as he says, he's been hooked on being open. He's also sort of met he's met a community of stutterers that speaks like him and that understands him. So this is a motivating factor for him to be becoming more and more involved in the stuttering community.
Is that the same stuttering support group that we've heard about from some of the other people that you've spoken with, Greg?
Discord.
It is, yeah.
And Paul, do you want to share a little bit about Discord?
Yeah, it's the same stuttering support group that Alex Delgado spoke about in his interview in season 6, episode 5, and we'll provide the link for that episode in our description down below. So if you missed that, you can catch up and find out more about the stuttering support group on Discord. Ben goes into chats a little bit about it in this episode, so I won't say too much about it. But if you're not a member and you're looking for community, then check out the stuttering support group. We'll also leave that link in the description so you can check it out on your own time.
Wow, two really young, motivated, inspirational men.
Definitely,
Yeah, they're
and
good.
both of these individuals have reached a point now that stuttering is unfixable. Ben says stuttering is unfixable, and this is something for him who struggle as well. They both struggle a lot, so that's they have reached. They're working towards acceptance. In many ways, they have accepted it, but their way of accepting it is getting more and more involved within the stuttering community. because we learn by sharing each other's stories. It helps to inspire and motivate us.
And Greg, not only unfixable, though, in the interview, Ben spoke about not wanting to see stuttering as something that needs fixing.
Correct, Laura. Correct.
And he's humorous about it, which I also am a person who likes to laugh at myself and share that with others. So I love that in the interview, our listeners will see and hear that I love his humor in the way he talks about the situations he finds himself in sometimes.
Yeah, it really shines through in this interview. I find he cracks a number of jokes throughout, and so if you're looking for some humor, then this is the episode for you. And it's interesting that he notes he says that stuttering can be funny, and I hesitate to say that as a person who doesn't stutter. So I won't promote that idea too broadly, but he does mention that, or at least what I interpret that as, it's funny as an in-group type of humor, right? For people who stutter, it can be okay to find some humor in it, but it would be not appropriate for me as being an out-group member to find that humor also funny, or at least, kind of. It's like you and Laura, you both are Newfoundlanders, and you can crack Newfoundland jokes, and I can't. I'm not from Newfoundland.
Exactly. We can even call them Newfie jokes, and you can't,
and I can't.
Goofy Newfies. One thing about Ben is
Paul could not have said that.
No,
no, that's true.
I would be censored.
Talking about humor, when I was having a conversation with Ben, we talked about cheese, and so there's a few lines of some humor about cheese. Mm-hmm. He's thinking about developing his own podcast, and he's looking for a name for it. And I suggested, because he has a taste for cheese, include the name cheese in the name.
Yeah, right.
Is cheese a stumbling block for stutterers?
It can be, Laura. It's the C.
Oh, I thought you meant like cheese, the food, like eating cheese.
Oh, the food.
No, I know you meant cheese, but I was wondering about including cheese in the name of a podcast hosted by someone who stutters, seeing as that dense African continent at the beginning seems like it could be a stumbling block.
It is. It can be a stumbling block, but knowing Ben, as I was saying, he has accepted that stuttering is not fixable, and he pushes through. He doesn't let stuttering interfere with his communication. And we talked about a confident stutterer, and I considered Ben working towards being a confident stutterer. And when all is said and done, whether or not you've taken speech therapy or haven't taken speech therapy, as long as you don't let stuttering control what you have to say. Mm-hmm. That's my definition of a confident stutterer.
You are a confident stutterer, Greg.
Oh, thank you, Lori. Thank you.
There's another part of the interview where there's a lot of talk about community, and I think this comes later in the interview, where you ask, what is it that people who stutter need? What do they need? And one of the things he says is they need a community. They need to have people to talk to, people that understand them, and people who will make it okay to stutter openly. And I thought that was a really important part to take away from this interview.
And when you're listening, if you like the interview, which I'm sure you will, because it's funny and interesting, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share what you're seeing with the people in your circles. Subscribing to the channel and sharing and liking the video help get our message out there more than you might realize based on the way the YouTube algorithm works. And this interview is a good one. We're excited to share it with you.
Today, Some Stutter Law welcomes Ben Pahl. Welcome, Ben, to Some Stutter Law.
Thank you for having me here. Very exciting.
So Ben, could just to reflect on your bio, you mentioned that you had 1 hour speech therapy sessions when you were younger, and it's like, would you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, so it began around in third grade. It was a public schooling speech therapy. It was an hour each week, and it went all the way up until my senior year of high school. And even then, it was like 45 minutes. It was my elementary school speech therapy was more intensive than my high school one. I remember being in the class with one, maybe two other people too. They didn't have Stutters, so that didn't help me out. They had a list, and so our SLP had to divide up her time. And then I remember having homework for it, which I didn't do. And then in middle school, it was on my own, one-on-one. And I remember trying out a new device at the time, which was, I don't know what it was called. It was delayed auditory device where it would play back your own voice into your ears on a slight delay, which I understand the principle of it, but I didn't like having on headphones when everyone else didn't, and this was back in 2008 when headphones weren't full yet, right? So, and then high school was very chill for my speech there. It was more check-ins, I guess. But in hindsight, the big thing I can take away is something that it wasn't ever about trying to accept your speech. It was always you have a problem and we can try and fix it, even though this is kind of an unfixable problem. And so that really, it took me years to figure out that that being fluent isn't everything.
Mm-hmm. So Ben, what is your attitude about your stuttering now? How do you feel about your stuttering?
It's much better. There's always work to be done. I'm much more acceptant of how I talk. I tend to tell people now, which 5 years ago would have been unfathomable both for me, which is that I stutter proudly, and I do, and I have over the years made it into kind of one of my things, or like talking points. You know, I think everyone should have a few like things that they have, and me being able to make a used turn on my stuttering from being very very negative to having a much more healthy relationship with it. It's been great, and you know, again, it's a talking point for people now, and I indulge in that. It's fun to educate people on how I talk. It's different. It's unique. And one of my favorite positives to it is I feel it makes me more memorable. Which, well, you know, that and my hair are like a combo of like, oh, okay, here comes Ben, the free flowing hippie, veteran kid, but yeah, overall, it's much better, much healthier.
So, would you like to elaborate? He calls us studs. Where did this come from?
It might have been from me. I don't know. It was in our Discord. It's just a shortened version of Stutter, and it's used kind of as an endearing term, just like, oh, you know, that it's a little in-curve joke / endearing or term of endearment, and it just because it's because it's short and catchy. It caught on, I think.
Great. Well, it is a fun term. It's a fun term. Yeah.
It's fun, and one of the most helpful things for me was to incorporate and indulge in the humor of Stuttering, because you know, I mean, it's funny. It's objectively funny. I mean, I use one example all the time, where this was the first day at conference last year. It was my friend and his friend in the elevator, and I was like just outside of it. I knew him. I didn't know who she was. I like pointed. I asked her, "Who are you?" As like the doors are closing, she is blocking on her name, and I felt bad, but it's also just objectively funny. It's like, well, that's the wrong time for it. So I try my best to inject that humor into my
Great.
peers around me.
Excellent, Ben. So Ben, like in terms of where where are you now with with acceptance of your stuttering? Where are you at this point?
Far, I'd say. Probably an 8 out of 10, maybe 8.5, I would say. I mean, I'm resound to the fact that this will be a part of me my whole life, which is fine. That's just how it is. And I mean, like, it what helps me the most is finding people uh, like me. That was the biggest thing. It fills in that you aren't alone, and even if you are different, you have your group of different people that you can talk about it with. And then 2, inject the humor into it. It real lightens up or breaks the ice too. Frankly, it does. And then let's see, community, humor. I don't know. I guess that's it.
What do you think people who start need in terms of supports? What would be the primary?
They need community for one. It might be the one, I would say, because everything else, I I I I I I I think, or have experienced, has fallen from me finding other people like me. So that's that I would say is the biggest one, and the challenge for that is to spread awareness, break down stigmas, and then educate both your 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 dots and your fluence about what this is and what your options are and who you can talk to.
So Ben, I've spoken to a number of people who stutter that they're open about their stuttering, and they consider themselves as confident people who stutter. Now, now, are you working towards that yourself, being a confident person who stutters?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't heard that term term the term I've heard and used more is open stuttering, and I tend to resonate with that more. I don't know why. Maybe because I tend to have two buttons down on my shirt, so I don't know. It could be anything.
Yeah, when I first heard spoke to a person that stutters, that said that I am a confident person who stutters. That really surprised me because with my past history of always trying to mask my stuttering, because I actually spent years and years being a covert stutterer, and I thought to myself, how can a person who stutters be open, but also feel feel confident about stuttering? And I think that's that's a journey for some people. But there are confident people that stutter.
Yes, there are for sure. I'm trying to. So for you, actually, as a covert, did you fall into like an avoidant behavior cycle and trap? I do that.
Well, I would classify myself then as a professional, cover stutter, because I develop all the toolbox, the tricks of the trade, avoidance, would avoid answering telephone calls and having people make appointments for me, and so it's all these tricks. But I learned a long time ago then that the more that I tried to mask my stuttering, I was losing out. I was missing a lot of opportunities. And so really, I was becoming my own bully, because so it also it also affected me from developing an authentic sense of identity in visuality, and also just trying to constantly, like, constantly, performance management, always being on my guard. It's exhausting. It certainly is exhausting being a covert stuttering. So she really, yeah. I also feel much more authentic now, being open and honest. That Greg O'Grady is a person who stutters, but it's okay to be a person who stutters. And Greg O'Grady is awesome. All people who stutter are awesome. Would you agree?
Damn right he is. Damn right he is. I read as an with that. I think that's part of why I'm trying to make stuttering sort of on my forefront and not do back because it is who I am and I can't change that, and so I might as well own it, I guess. And I hope I'm owning it.
Some Stutter Law is brought to you today with help from Memorial University, the Newfoundland Labrador Stuttering Association, and a whole team of volunteers behind the scenes, without whom today's episode would not have been possible.